we are ready to combine everything we know from the first derivative and the second derivative to do some curve sketching. So we did a little bit of this with limits, and so we want to remember our properties of limits, and we'll see some limits pop up later, and they will help us get a good idea of what the curve looks like. But for the beginning of this, we're just going to look at what the first and second derivative tell us, and that gives us a decent idea of what the curve looks like. So we want to remember, if the first derivative is bigger than 0, that means it's positive, that the original function is increasing there. If the first derivative is negative, the original function, when we draw it, should be decreasing. So it should be falling left to right. If the second derivative is positive, that means we're drawing something that is concave up. And if the second derivative is negative, we're drawing something that's concave down. And the second derivative is really going to help us get the best idea of the picture. If we know what the second derivative is doing, that's pretty powerful. And that's because concave up and concave down can only look 3 different ways. So either concave up rather, looks like a U. There's one of the ways. It could look just like the left side of the U, or just like the right side of the U. Those are the only 3 ways to draw something concave up. Concave down has only 3 ways as well. We would do either a full U, just the left side of the U, or just the right side of the U when we draw concave down. So that's pretty powerful. So let's use what we know about the first and second derivative to look at this first example. So we want to draw a function that is continuous on the interval from negative infinity to positive infinity. So we shouldn't have to pick up our pen to draw, although I might, just because I'm drawing on a tablet, so it's a little bit more difficult. But in general, you shouldn't have to pick your pencil up because it's continuous. And we want to make sure that we have f prime be less than 0. We have a negative first derivative between negative infinity and 2 and after 5. So I like making this first derivative information into a sign chart. So I'm going to do that here. I think that helps me draw my picture. So I have negative infinity to 2. I have a negative first derivative. And then after 5 as well. 5 to infinity is also negative. And the next piece says that I have a positive derivative between 2 and 5. I'm going to put a plus in here. So I can kind of sketch what this looks like just based upon that. So I'm decreasing before 2. I switch to be increasing between 2 and 5, and then I'm decreasing again. So something with that sort of shape is going to do. Otherwise, I'm not given any information. So I'm just going to draw something that meets these conditions. So I want to remember that decreasing to increasing, I want to draw a relative min here. So I have a relative min. And then if I go from increasing to decreasing, this should really be moved over a little bit so it's above the 5. I'm just going to scooch this over to being above the 5. To go from increasing to decreasing, I have a relative max at 5. But I don't have any points that I have to specifically go through on here, so I can kind of draw this wherever I want. So I'm going to choose to draw it above the x-axis. I'm going to say that relative min that I'm drawing in at 2 is maybe 2, 1. And then I have a relative max at 5. I'm going to say that's at the point 5, 3. And then I'm just going to make sure I draw this specific shape as best as I can. So I'm decreasing before 2. So decreasing before 2. And then I switch to being increasing between 2 and 5. And then after 5, I'm decreasing again. So here's the general shape. Hopefully your drawing looks a little bit nicer than mine. And the hard part about curve sketching, which we saw from sketching limits, is there are lots of answers. I chose to draw mine mostly above the x-axis. You could have drawn yours completely below the x-axis. But as long as it goes decreasing to increasing to decreasing, that was the only stipulation that we were given other than being continuous. So I didn't have to pick up my pen here.